Growing up, I've always been fascinated by two things: people who can draw and horror games. It has always been my dream to create a horror art painting that I could say that I was proud of. So I'm gonna take you through my journey of my art, horror games, and artists that inspire me to eventually painting my very own art piece in one of the coolest horror art jamming studios that I found in Singapore. Okay, this might come as a surprise, but I had an art phase back in secondary school, and I always thought that people who could paint were so cool. One of the artists that I admire the most is the man, the myth, the legend, Bob Ross himself, and I used to binge watch his painting videos. For the memes, I even tried to follow and recreate a Bob Ross painting using the most advanced digital art software, Windows Paint. And this was the final result, which honestly turned out way better than I expected. Also growing up, a core memory of mine was playing horror games. The first horror game that I played was Slender, where a bunch of my friends came over to my place, we turned off all the lights, and we screamed with every jump scare. It was a peak childhood experience. As the horror game genre evolved over the years, some games like the Outlast series scared people with their intense chase sequences and hyper-realistic graphics. But the horror games that really drew me in are the ones that went with a more subtle and minimalistic approach, games like Limbo, Little Nightmares, and Cube Escape Paradox. So I remember scrolling through TikTok one day, and then
This is the viral horror art jamming studio located 5 minutes from Outram Park. If you're looking for the spot to celebrate Halloween, this is the place.
I was instantly amazed at how cool the idea was and how the studio looked. So I instantly dropped Scuro a message and booked myself a slot for next Saturday. But then I realized I had a slight problem. I had no idea what I was actually gonna paint. Now let me introduce you to one of the coolest horror artists out there, Pitch Canker. I was really inspired by his videos where he talks about how his thought process and how he draws horror art, and I love how minimalistic and powerful his art is. I don't know how to describe art, but I just love his work, okay? Most of his pieces just use three main colors, red, black, and white, so I knew it would be perfect for a beginner like myself. I wanted to draw inspiration from two of my favorite pieces of his artwork, the High Priestess and Justice. I really love the red and black contrast of this piece and how it reminds me of a weeping angel dripping with blood. And for this piece, what drew me in was the weighing scale and the Grim Reaper wielding a sword that represents this idea of justice. To round it all up, the third piece of inspiration was actually a Bible verse in Revelation chapter 8, which talks about God's judgment of the earth through the 7 seals and 7 trumpets. I really wanted to incorporate this idea of a third of the sea turned into blood, and the idea of someone holding an earth that's dripping with blood. With my mini inspiration mood board on hand, I figured that I could use some extra help, so I called up the most talented artist I know, none other than my axolotl artist, Arazen. She's been responsible for drawing almost all of the axolotl art on my channel, as well as some really cool animations. So I showed her what I was trying to create, and we both decided to come up with a quick sketch in 30 minutes. And just take a look at how talented she is. At this point, hers is not even a sketch. She managed to whip up a full illustration in 30 minutes, and it just looks incredible. I really loved how her artwork has like a central focus towards the eye, and the background really gave it that apocalyptic feel, if you know what I mean. Now, let me present to you what I managed to sketch in 30 minutes. Are you ready? Behold your eyes on whatever this is. Okay, clearly you can see the difference in the artistic skill between me and my axolotl artist. So I decided to book a soft guided session on the Scuro website and sent over my questionable sketch begging for help. Thankfully, they were so nice and supportive of the concept of my painting and said that they could help me at the studio. There were 3 things I know I definitely wanted to incorporate in the painting. Number 1, the balance scale which represents justice, number 2, the weeping angel, and number 3, the earth dripping in blood. But at this point I was super nervous about the execution because honestly, I've never actually painted on a canvas before in my entire life. When I stepped into Scuro, it was honestly so cool, and I love how it showed the artwork and paintings of the many people that have been here. So, introducing Merida, the founder of Scuro, and she gave me a quick tour around the place, and I even got to ask her how she started Scuro.
Hi, I'm Merida. I'm the founder of Singapore's only horror art jamming studio, Scuro. We also do other art jams like Neon as well. Look at that. Does it remind you of Bob Ross? I decided, okay, why not we start a horror art jamming studio so that other people can feel better by drawing out their true emotions through art. So I invested 800 in like a pop-up studio, and then after that got traction and more people came in and got to know about us. I decided to get our own space at Outram Park, which cost me like 30k to start. And right now we are not very profitable yet, but we are getting there slowly, step by step. And yeah, I have a good feeling about this place.
Another thing that's really cool about this place are the blood bags, which is basically just hibiscus tea, but it's a really cool addition that just fits the whole vibe of the place. In fact, I loved it so much and jokingly told her how much all of you guys would enjoy it, and she super generously said that she would include a free blood bag drink for my viewers. So yeah, you can use the promo code MATHAXOLOTL in your booking, or just simply tell Merida that the MathAxolotl sent you here to redeem your free drink. Before I even started painting anything, I needed to come up with a sketch, and it was probably the most difficult part of the whole experience. My sketch always seemed to look a little bit out of proportion, and the hardest part was definitely trying to draw the hands holding the earth. Okay, I had to get Merida to help me out with some parts here and there, but she was more than happy to help me. The great thing about this painting is thankfully it only uses 3 main colors, red, white and black, so I didn't have to worry too much about switching between colors. I soon realized that painting feels really different to drawing on a digital tablet. And the fact that there is no undo button made me super scared to make a mistake, and the paintbrush actually required a lot of skill to control. After painting in all the colors, I thought that it still looked kinda off, but Merida came over and suggested that I could add in some shadows by mixing colors together, which was absolutely genius. So for example, if I wanted a darker shade of red to add a shadow, I just had to take some red and mix it with a bit of black on a separate part of the palette, and I realized that's exactly what Bob Ross does! This was the most fun part of the painting, and I was just straight up channeling my inner Bob Ross and not worrying too much about making mistakes. Honestly, I was having so much fun that I didn't even know that 2 hours had passed, and I was so locked in because I wanted to paint the best possible art piece that I could. I think the feeling of creating something that you truly wanted, you feel proud of it when you complete it and look back on it, which is how this art piece turned out, and even for the videos that I create, for example. So here's the final painting, which turned out way better than I expected considering that I've never really painted before. My favorite part of the painting was definitely the weighing scale. I thought that the shading looked really cool and the blood dripping down into the sea, which I didn't even intend to include, but I used this long brush sideways and just lightly tapped the canvas, and it's something that I just kinda improvised along the way. Then Merida offered to help me snap a few pictures of my final artwork in this really cool looking chair, and that was it! It was such a surreal experience getting to paint horror art for the first time, and it just blows my mind that there's a whole community of people who enjoy doing the same. Honestly, after talking to Merida, she's one of the nicest and most welcoming people I've ever met, and after hearing her story, I was really inspired by how she took the leap of faith to start the horror art jamming studio of her dreams. And all of this can only continue to happen if the business stays afloat. So please come and support Scuro. And if you ever get to talk to Merida, you can tell her that the MathAxolotl sent you here. Anyways, take care everyone, Axolotl out.